In 2002, two children headed down to Piedade Beach with their father. The three of them entered the sea in what has since become known as one of the most shark-infested beaches in the world. The two children watch in horror as their father is dragged underwater by a shark just feet from where they are swimming. Hit that like button and subscribe right now. This is the terrifying shark attack on Luis Soares de Arruda. Welcome to Final Affliction. Piedade Beach in Brazil's northeastern city of Greater Recife is known as a shark hotspot. Since 1992, there have been 62 shark attacks, of which 25 have been fatal. But the draw of the ocean is ever present with the white sandy beaches and calm blue waters. Lifeguards patrol the seas, scanning the water for any signs of distress, but even they cannot prevent a shark attack. On October 14, 2002, 36-year-old Luis Soares de Arruda headed to the beach with his 14-year-old son and 10-year-old daughter. Little did he know that it would be the last time the three of them took a dip together. There were others in the sea, but it was Luis who was about to be the target of an apex predator. A tiger shark was swimming parallel to the beach. Its dark shadow just below the surface went unnoticed. It glided along, seeking out prey. It could sense the vibrations from the beachgoers. It was curious and swam in for a closer look. The splashes and shouts from those playing in the sea could have been mistaken for an animal in distress, something that the shark may consider as food. Luis and his children swam to about 20 meters or 60 feet from the shore. They were enjoying the cool water. The air temperature was dropping as afternoon was drawing to a close, but the sun was still high in the sky. The shark had spotted the three of them. It now changed course and made a beeline for the young family. Luis was unaware of what swam below him, but there had already been 5 shark attacks in that area alone that year. Signs had been erected along the beaches to warn people of the dangers, and yet they still swam in the sea. Being so close to shore gave a false sense of security to so many. People often assume that wading in waist-high water means that they are less likely to be attacked, but sharks can drive themselves onto the sand in pursuit of prey. They frequent the shallows, as that is sometimes where shoals of fish swim. Luis was now swimming in chest-high water. He could still stand on the bottom and paused his swimming every now and then to talk and laugh with his kids. However, with a tiger shark prowling the coastal waters that day in October, nobody in the water was safe. After swimming for 10 minutes or so, the shark advanced towards Luis. He was in front of his two children, and suddenly there was a sharp tug on one of his legs. He let out a cry of alarm, and his two children froze. In front of them, they saw a large, dark gray dorsal fin. It was just a couple of feet away from their father, and when he started struggling in the water, the children realized that the shark had got him. It tugged him under the surface momentarily, but Luis fought back. He kicked with all his might, trying to shake the animal off him. He came back up briefly and desperately waved his arms above his head. Those on the beach stood still, shocked by what they were seeing. Luis's two children screamed as the water around their father turned red. They couldn't do anything. They couldn't help. For a few terrifying moments, they were frozen in fear, unable to move. They could see the fear in their father's eyes. There was a splash and a swirl in the water. A large gray hump emerged out of the water. It was the shark's back. The sun glistened off the skin before it dived back down, dragging Luis with it. His children made a mad dash for the shore. They dare not look back behind them for fear of what they might see. Was the shark coming for them now too? It had disappeared from sight. The terrifying thought that it might pop up next to them, or that they would feel a sharp tug on their leg, came into their heads, but mercifully, they made it to the beach. When they turned around to look for their father, there was no sign of him. It was as if nothing had happened. It had all been so quick. One moment, Luis was swimming with his children. The next, he was pulled under by an enormous shark. Although time seemed to stand still during the whole attack, and the memory of seeing their desperate father will play out in the minds of his children over and over again. The attack only lasted about 5 seconds. It was determined to be a predatory attack. The shark hadn't attacked out of a case of mistaken identity. This time, the shark had seen potential prey and made a deliberate attempt to take it down. As the minutes ticked by, the hope that Luis had somehow survived the ordeal faded. Emergency crews were scrambled to the location. They took to the water, scouring the sea for any sign of the father. As the maritime group of the Pernambuco Fire Department motored their boat along the shoreline, they could see a thick blood stain in the water that stretched for 5 meters. It was clear that Luis had likely bled to death by now, or he had drowned. When evening drew in, all hope was lost for Luis. The following morning, the search continued, but now the fire department were looking for any remains of the victim. Near where the attack occurred, a chunk of body was found washed up on the beach. It was thought to be part of Luis's hip. It was a grotesque finding and hugely traumatic for his family. Only a month before, a 19-year-old student was attacked on the same beach. He was lucky enough to survive the ordeal, but his leg was amputated as a result. Following the dangerous and deadly attacks that seemed to plague that particular stretch of Brazil's coastline, the City Council of Recife proposed closing a 2-kilometer stretch of the beach. This was considered unnecessary by shark and marine experts. Netting off a large section of the water would likely move the problem on elsewhere. Instead, councilors suggested that a greater effort was made to educate people about sharks and the dangers of swimming in the area. It considered marking the particularly dangerous areas off with buoys so that people were aware exactly where the shark attack hotspot was, and they also deemed it necessary to purchase a boat armed with a harpoon that would patrol the waters and slay any sharks that came too close to shore. Luis's death was a terrible tragedy, but there have continued to be shark attacks along the 12.5-mile coastline of Greater Recife. More recently, in 2021, a man was mauled by a shark when he went to urinate in the sea. 51-year-old Marcelo Rocha Santos had been drinking with friends when he waded into the surf with a friend. The water came up to just below their waists as they relieved themselves. Moments later, a shark leapt from the water, severing Marcelo's hand and taking a bite out of his leg. He was pulled to the beach by his friend, but died at the scene. In 2023, terror reigned once more. On March 5th, a 14-year-old girl was attacked and lost her leg. Remarkably, the very next day, on March 6th, another teenage girl, Kaylane Timoteo Freitas, was dragged from the water by lifeguards after being attacked by a shark. The shark severed her left arm. She was airlifted to hospital and survived the terrifying ordeal. Even as she was carried away in a stretcher, people remained in the sea. Lifeguards had the unenviable task of wading into the water to remove people. It is little wonder why that stretch of Brazil's coastline has earned it a top spot in the top 10 for most shark-infested beaches. Locals believe that the construction of the relatively new Soape port is to blame. During construction, water flow from 3 rivers into the sea was diverted. This blocked the typical routes taken by sharks, and now, to make the same journeys as before, the sharks need to swim closer to shore. With so many people enjoying the water, human-shark encounters at Piedade Beach are now considered common, with many more expected to meet their terrifying final affliction.